Okay, so today I'm gonna be making some kimchi for the first time. I've never done it. For those who have been keeping up with my blog and what I'm into, I have been talking about fermented foods, the benefits of fermented foods, and kind of their effect on the gut microbiome in regards to like your overall health system. But I wanted to actually start, living it rather than just talk about it. Actually do what I'm preaching. So I took the leap and I started to, figure out what or how to make kimchi and make some of these fermented foods. So that's what I did. I'm following a recipe. This is not my recipe. This is a recipe from a woman or a content or brand named Kimchi. I'll put a link to it in the description. But I just wanted to let you know that this is her recipe, not mine. But without further ado, let's jump into it and let's see if we can make fermented kimchi. I do want to specify that you'll find a lot of these ingredients at your local Asian or Korean store. If you don't have that, obviously you can kind of experiment or substitute, but I got a lot of this stuff at my local Asian store, brick and mortar. They had pretty much everything we had except for a few things, but that are mentioned in the website. But it was kind of hard because I'm not used to that. That's not my culture. I don't know. But, just ask. Never be scared. They'll gladly take your money. And I do want to state that this recipe we're making does produce 8 pounds of kimchi. So I'm kind of taking a risk there. I could have halved it. It wouldn't have been a big deal. But I just wanted to do everything it said because I've had kimchi in the past. I liked it, but I've never had this recipe. So it ended up costing me about like $60. But it's 8 pounds of kimchi, which is no small amount. If you're eating it every day, it's a part of your daily routine. So obviously it's going to cost a little bit. But you factor that into your dietary expense. But anyways, here's the list of the ingredients. So first, you want to go find 6 pounds of Napa or Asian style cabbage. This was pretty expensive. It was about $2.79, $2.80 per pound, which compared to the local supermarkets or big commercial supermarkets, it was 20-30 cents more expensive, but not really a whole lot. So I just bought everything at the Asian market for the most part because it's a small business and you support them when you can. Plus, I'll be honest, compared to what I saw at the store, this was better quality. The Napa cabbage at the store was way more wilted and smaller. It wasn't as nice. So just things to consider. Okay, next in the recipe it called for this Asian radish, which you only need about, I think, a cup or two of this, which, it's just a radish. I don't really know how much radish that is, but this seemed like it would be enough for 2 cups if you minced it or cut it up relatively fine. So these things get pretty giant. They were at the store and I didn't know how much to buy, but so yeah, I just wanted to specify that. This called for some kosher salt, about, I think it was like a quarter or half a cup. I'll put the whole recipe down below. I'm just kind of going off of memory. And this took about 2 cups and this is just Korean red pepper flake. I believe these are cayenne peppers, but like I said, if you're unsure, kind of just ask the people at the Asian store. They will help you out. And a lot of this stuff, like I heard in another video, instead of getting kosher salt, you could get Korean salt or something that's kind of meant to work better with this. So yeah, this is just some red powder. I don't even know how much you really need of this, but this is sweet rice flour, also got at the Asian store. And then some Squid brand fish sauce. I do want to specify that you need about 2 tablespoons of this and about a half cup of this fish sauce. It doesn't have to be the Squid brand. It just can be anything. It did call for an Asian onion, which I didn't really know what that was. I couldn't find it, so I just got a regular white onion. And then about 24 cloves of garlic, 2 teaspoons worth of ginger, 8 green onions, and then a cup or 2 of carrots. I can't remember the exact measurements, but I'll put it in, like I said, the link below. I forgot to mention one of the most important flavors that you can add. It is the salted freshwater krill, which is supposed to be like salted fermented shrimp. I'd never in my life seen these before, so I wasn't expecting to pay $15.99 for this, so $16 for a whole bunch of salted little baby shrimp. Yeah, like I said, I've never seen this before. It was kind of interesting to pull this out of the fridge and be like, huh, they're still looking at me. But I'm sure, I hear that they add a lot of flavor to the actual dish. So I was willing to try. I dished out some money for it, but yeah, I think it'll be worth it. And I heard you can make this on your own using fresh shrimp, but I don't live near an ocean or area where you can get fresh shrimp from, so this is the best I can do. All right, so what I'm doing now is I'm gonna get these Napa cabbages out, and I'm gonna rinse them off. Make sure there's no dirt, which they look pretty clean. And then we're gonna prepare them for the brine. All right, now that we got these washed and rinsed, the first instructions are, it says to cut up about 1 inch or 2, and then you're gonna kind of go all the way through and then rip it apart. Just so, I've never done this before, so we're just gonna try it out. Make sure I got it. Okay, and then kind of put my fingers in between. And I'm just gonna put these to the side real quick. And then I'm gonna do the same on this one. Okay, next it tells us to cut above the stem about 1 inch or 2. So I'll let that be, and I'm just gonna continue that for the other ones. Okay, so now I'm just rinsing these really good before I put them in the brine or add salt. With some cold water. Just kind of trying to get between all the folds and creases. Okay, now that we have that washed, I'm gonna start adding this kosher salt. And from what I can tell, you want to salt heavier towards the base and kind of fade out as you go. So I'm just kind of gonna do that. And let's do that on every leaf. I'm sure you don't gotta be super meticulous about all this. And like I said, this is the first time I'm doing this, so you always gotta expect a little to mess up somewhere, which is how you learn, especially without guidance. Okay, so we got all the leaves salted. I actually had to end up getting another bowl just because I ran out of space in this one, but we ended up using about, I don't have an exact measurement, but about 1.5 of these or 1 3/4. So just keep that in mind. You do want to salt these heavy, especially if the bases are pretty thick. A lot of the videos I've seen, they're going pretty heavy on the salt, which makes me believe that there's good reason to. So keep that in mind. So the next step is we're gonna fill this up with water. no one's really specific on how much water you add, but a general, from what I can tell, is you fill it up about halfway, so they're not fully submerged, but you can flip them, and that gives you the ability to keep, let one side get dehydrated from the water brine, and then the other to get, it's evenly, osmosis is happening and water's leaving the cabbage. So same for this, you just fill it up about halfway and we'll flip it. Some people even have you ladle the brine and put it on top. So just depends on how much work. And they do space out, if they're gonna flip it and ladle it, they do that about every 30 minutes for 2, 3, 4 hours. It just depending on how you like it. Like I said, this is not an exact science, it's just people's preference. So if you're following this, just do what you need to do and do what you like. And if you've never done it before, well, you'll learn now after the first few times you make it. But just keep that in mind. Okay, and now I'm gonna use some cold water and just, like I said, get it about halfway. Yeah, it's cold. All right, so we've been letting this soak for about 2-3 hours, and we flipped it in between at about 30 minutes. And you can kind of tell, I don't know if you'll be able to tell in the video, it looks similar, but now you can bend it and it's not cracking, it's wilted, and you can't crunch it if you wanted to. So that's kind of what we were looking for. Well, some people have told us to try it at this point, but I don't know exactly what that would solve, because I've never made kimchi, or I can't really remember even what it tasted like last time I ate it. So I know it has a lot of seasoning on it, which hid a lot of the natural flavor of the cabbage. So I'm happy with how it's turned out. But we're gonna move on to the next step. What we're gonna do is we're gonna dump out this saltwater brine, and then we're gonna thoroughly rinse all of the cabbage, what is now cabbage quarters. They fell apart while dehydrating or withering, and just make sure you get all that excess salt off so it's not killing you when you eat it. And then after we get that figured out, we're gonna cut off these big stems as they're still kind of hard, and then we're gonna leave it, because there's different ways. Some people will cut up into more bigger chunks. Other people use instant or more thinly sliced cabbage. Supposedly there is some type of equivalent that if you have the bigger pieces, it has a longer shelf life and doesn't ferment as quickly, which makes sense because there's less surface area. So bacteria aren't gonna be on every little nook and cranny, which is what I want. So those are the next step. Drain the water, rinse, cut the stump off or the stem, and then we'll move on to the next portion. Okay, so the bottoms are cut, and now we have all the cabbage. The Napa cabbage kind of sitting here with no stem, just waiting for the next step. So here's 24 garlic, and after this you got like I said, the shrimp, the fermented salted freshwater krill. Okay, so after getting the 24 cloves of garlic, I'm now going to measure out 1/4 or 1/4 of a cup of these little baby freshwater shrimp with salt. I've never opened these before, so it's the first time for everything. I'm gonna smell what they smell like. It smells like shrimp. It smells like fish food, but in a good way. They're just infinite bodies of shrimp. And it feels like you think it's gonna be like soft, like liquid, but no, it's just fellow brethren shrimp. And it's not really a fish food. I got more of like a raw shrimp, so it doesn't smell rotten. Like I was scared it was gonna smell old and not fresh, but it smells fresh. That salt preserving it. Okay, and with that 1/4 cup of shrimp, you do want to mince them. This is after we minced them. And then we're adding them back to the bowl, which we're gonna mix all the kimchi ingredients together. Here is the 24 minced garlic. All right, so we cut up a whole onion. We're mincing it to about this level. I got 2 teaspoons of ginger, and we're gonna mince that as well and add it to the bowl with the rest. And lastly, last but not least, the 2 cups of the red pepper powder, coarse grind. Okay, now the recipe calls for a 1/2 cup of fish sauce. All right, so here's the 1/2 cup. Okay, so now we're starting with the porridge, and we've got a little saucepan, and we're gonna do a 1-to-1 ratio with 2 cups of sugar, 2 cups of water, with 2 tablespoons of sweet rice flour. You combine those, cook it for about 10 minutes while it's bubbling after it raises to a simmer, and then after the 10 minutes, you add 2 tablespoons of white or brown sugar and let it continue to bubble or simmer for about 1 more minute. And from there, you're done. Okay, so here's the little mixture, and we're just now getting it up to it's bubbling to the bubbling point, which is gonna take a little bit, but then we'll let it sit there for 10 minutes, add the sugar, let it cook for 1 more minute. All right, so here's the rice flour with the water. It is boiling, so we're gonna give it 10 minutes. I've now added the 2 tablespoons of sugar, as this has been boiling or simmering for about 10 minutes. And now I'm stirring the sugar and just letting it kind of bubble some more for the last minute. Okay, and here's what it looks like after adding the 2 cups of the red pepper powder. Looking spicy. Okay, now I'm gonna start cutting up I don't remember what the exact name of this, Chinese radish, Asian radish, but I'm basically going to cut it julienne it. So I don't know if that's the correct term, but I'm going to cut it into long strips and then add it into here. I've actually never had this, so I'm excited to try it. Okay, so I julienne 2 whole big carrots, and then it calls for 6 green onions, but you can also substitute in a little bit more instead of the Chinese onion or Asian onion. I can't remember what it's called. So we did 10 chives of green onions. Okay, so now I'm going to massage the paste or powder mixture into all the vegetables and the cabbage that we just added. So this is gonna be, people recommend gloves for this because, I mean, all this powder is pretty much just cayenne pepper. So if you have any cuts or anything, it's gonna probably burn a little bit and stain your hands. Okay, so I've been massaging and mixing all the ingredients together, and it looks pretty mixed. It smells really good to me. I was a little bit skeptical because some of the fish sauce smelled a little bit strange. I never smelled anything like that, but it is altogether. Smells really good. I'm hungry, so I'm gonna show you what it looks like. I'm gonna stop mixing here in a second. I'm just kind of being a little bit overkill, but yep, this is my first time making kimchi. I thank Main Chi for the recipe. This is not my recipe, and I'm excited to taste it. I'm gonna not end it at this. I might actually add in, so I might taste it today, and then after a few days, after it's fermented a little bit, we'll see if it's a little bit more sour. It's supposed to get more sour, which I don't know what that means. So we'll have to see and compare how I like it. I do want to ferment it, but I don't know how long, because I know that there is a range in preference, so I have to make it a few more times. Okay, I'm about to taste some of this before I put it up to let it ferment. I just want to taste what it tastes, see what it tastes like before the fermentation. Pretty good. Spicy. Cabbagey, but a lot of spice. I like it. A little bit of fishy in the shrimp, but it complements it. I'm impressed. I'm excited to see what it tastes like after a few days of fermentation. Okay, so I just burped it. This is day one. I opened the lid, I used a spoon, I kind of pushed everything down, and yeah, I saw the air bubbles go up and stuff, so I think that's just from putting it in, but supposedly after a day or two, you're gonna start seeing little bubbles go up, and it's fermenting. There's a lot more liquid in it now, from what I can tell. Let me do a close-up. I don't recall there being so much, but there is. So. But yeah, I'm gonna give it another day or two and taste it. Okay, here's the second day. I opened it. It made a nice, good like sound, like you opened up a can of soda. So now I'm gonna push down again on the top. Okay, so it's been, like I said, 3 days, and the kimchi is now starting to bubble on its own continuously. So that lets me know that the fermentation is in full effect. I've never really had kimchi, like authentic kimchi that's been fermented, so I'm kind of gonna take it by ear. So I'm about to taste a little bit and see if I like it or not at this stage, and then decide if I want to leave it out for a day or two more, and then put it in the fridge. I've also heard of people, putting this immediately in the fridge or letting it sit out only a day or two, and then they put the big jar in the fridge, and then they'll take out little bits at a time and let it ferment on its own, so they can kind of have a base and figure out how they like their kimchi. But like I said, I've never really had it, so I'm just gonna try it out on my own. All right, here's day 3 of burping the kimchi. If you listen carefully, you can hear the hiss. Look, you can see the bubbles. It smells almost like gasoline. It's more liquid than when I first started it. You gotta kind of push it down. Here's what it looks like after I opened it. It popped open real quick. It's even got a little bit of juice at the top, which is interesting. I'll wipe down that little gasket, but you can see the bubbles coming out. It smells to me like methane almost. It's like some type of natural gas. So I assume that's from the bacteria, the anaerobic bacteria. So I'm gonna dish me up some and just eat a little bowl. All right, here's the kimchi I dished up. I'm gonna taste it. So let me get a little fork by itself. And then let me flip the camera. Okay, now let me eat it without getting a whole bunch of food on my beard. Pretty good. A little bit sour, but like an interesting mix of flavors. I can't describe it. Pretty good though. With some, I think I'm gonna put it in the fridge and just let it slowly ferment over time and just keep eating it. It's perfect for me right now because to me it tastes like it would complement eggs or rice and not overwhelm the natural flavors of those. So, and it's still got a nice little bit of flavor and kick. So I like it. Okay, so 3 days was about as bitter as I wanted it, or sour. So I'm now putting it in the fridge and calling it good. So thanks for watching if you made it this far. I really enjoyed the whole process of making kimchi, and I'm excited to try out other fermented foods such as sauerkraut, my own yogurt, etc. As you can see, I was a little bit of struggling with the heat of that kimchi, so I'm just gonna let it kind of do its thing, slow down, and mix it with some other foods to kind of mitigate that heat. But thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again.